Good day everyone. My name is Claret D'Souza. I'm working as a lecturer for the Department of Food Nutrition and Dietetics, Milagros College, Mangalore. So today I will be talking on the topic Basic Principles of Meal Planning. Before we get into the topic, let's understand what is food. Food is anything solid, liquid, which when consumed, digested and assimilated will nourish our body with nutrients. To maintain health and proper functioning of the body, food is very important. Nutrients are nothing but chemical substances that are necessary for day-to-day life. These nutrients are categorized into 6 important classes, starting from carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and then we have water and fiber. The term nutrition, according to Robinson, is defined as the science of foods and nutrients, their action, interaction, balance in relationship to health and diseases, the process by which the organism ingests, digests, absorbs, transports and utilizes nutrients, and disposes the end product. Nutrients are constituents in food that must be supplied to the body in adequate amounts. The nutritional status of an individual is associated to the health of the individual, which in turn is related to the utilization of nutrients. So it is not that we have to consume the nutrients, even the absorption of nutrients and how well the body takes them in is also important when we are talking about nutrition. Coming to essential nutrients. So there are certain nutrients in our body that are synthesized on its own. Those are known as the non-essential nutrients because our body can synthesize them. The essential nutrients, in other hand, will be the ones that our body cannot synthesize and hence should be taken in through diet or under certain conditions through supplements. The 6 nutrients which we studied earlier, the carbohydrates, proteins and stuff, they can be again further classified into 2 types, the organic and the inorganic nutrients. See, the organic ones will contain 3 important elements. Those are carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So the body will utilize the organic nutrients in order to break them up into smaller components. For example, we can take into account carbohydrates. Carbohydrates has 3 different classes, monosaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. So basically the polysaccharides which are made of different monosaccharides unit, upon digestion these polysaccharides will be broken down into the smaller units, monosaccharides. In inorganic nutrients, they are already present in the simplest form and the body will ingest them as such except that of water. Water will not provide any kind of nutrition. Next, the relationship between good nutrition and health. So health is defined by the World Health Organization, WHO, as a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not merely the absence of diseases or any kind of infirmity. To maintain good health and nutritional status, one person must eat a balanced diet which will provide all the nutrients in required amounts. The essential requisites of health include the first, achievement of optimal growth and development, reflecting the expression of one's genetic potential. The second one, maintenance of structural integrity and functional efficiency of the body tissues necessary for an active and productive life. Third requisite, mental well-being. Fourth one, the ability to withstand the inevitable process of aging with minimal disability and functional impairment. The fifth and the last one, ability to combat diseases. It can be resisting infection, which is immunocompetence, nothing but increase in the immunity, preventing the onset of degenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease, dementia. These are some of the degenerative diseases. Then resisting the effect of environmental toxins or pollutants. Next concept is balanced diet. So balanced diet is nothing but consumption of different food groups in order to obtain all the nutrients in a amount such that the body will be not deficient in any of the nutrients. It can be deficiency of nutrients or it can be overconsumption of a particular nutrient. So balanced diet can be defined as the one that contains various food groups of different foodstuffs such as the energy yielding food group, bodybuilding, protective foods in correct proportion so that the individual is assured of obtaining the minimum requirement for all nutrients. The components of a balanced diet, it will differ depending upon the age, sex, physical activity, physiological status, whether the person or woman is under any kind of, time limit, has in pregnancy, lactation, or suffering from any kind of diseases like fever, and also the economic status of the individual. There are three types of balanced diet, beginning with balanced diet at high cost. So as the name suggests, high cost, this kind of diet will include the costlier food items in larger proportion. So it will include liberal amounts of milk, meat, fish, and fruits, and moderate amount of cereals, pulses, nuts, and fats. Next, balanced diet at moderate cost. So these will include moderate amount of the costly food items such as milk, meat, fish, fruits, fats, and liberal amounts of cereals, pulses, nuts, and green leafy vegetables. The last one is balanced diet at low cost. These will include very small amount or under rare occasion, small amounts of costly food items like your milk, eggs, meat, fish, and fats, and liberal amounts of cereals, pulses, nuts, and green leafy vegetables. So it is said that a balanced diet should meet the nutritional requirement of an individual. It should prevent the onset of any kind of degenerative diseases, improves longevity or lifespan of the person, prolongs the productive life, improves immunity, increases endurance level, as in case of any kind of diseases, helps in coping up with the stressful conditions. Thus, the balanced diet will enhance the quality of life. Next concept is meal planning. So meal planning is nothing but deciding what to eat for a particular meal. Okay, it will contain the kind of foods to be included at each meal. It takes thought, effort, and use of knowledge about the food and nutrient requirement of an individual. As the family's well-being and health are dependent on what they are fed, it is a challenge for every meal maker to ensure that we meet the requirements. The plan can be flexible to take advantage of the lower prices during the seasonal foods. The seasonal foods at that time will have a lower price than going for the foods that are not locally available or during that season it's not obtained. So planning process in brief. Briefly talking, we have 5 main steps during meal planning. The first one is to make a list of the food from each group. So basically we are already exposed to the 5 food group system of the ICMR. So based on that ICMR 5 food group system, we are supposed to make a list of all the food groups, okay, to ensure that all the food groups will be included at every meal. Then check for the prices. Depending upon the budget of the family, we have to see to that whether we can include the lower food groups, just like how we studied in the balanced diet, whether we have to go for balanced diet at high cost, moderate cost, or low cost. Depends upon the budget of the family. It varies from person to person. Okay. Then the third step is to estimate a day's needs of all the family members. It can be by the use of RDA. Using the RDA, we will obtain the DDA, that is daily dietary allowance, and then calculate a month's need. Okay, so those food items which we require to get in bulk, we can get it. Purchases can be made monthly, fortnightly, weekly, and daily. It depends upon the type of food we are working with. Whether the food is perishable, that means it will undergo spoilage very quickly, semi-perishable, or non-perishable, such as your cereals, rice items. These can be purchased monthly. Whereas your fresh food items like milk, poultry, these has to be purchased daily. So then the fifth step, plan menus to meet the daily needs of the family. So this was the planning process in brief. So planning diet. People's eating habit vary enormously, and every dietitian must respect the dietary freedom, as in what the person wants to eat or what they don't like, and diversity when making recommendation. Diversity, it can be cultural differences, traditional differences. Diversity is one of our culture's strengths and the sources of pleasure. There are many ways to be eating healthy. The best way to achieve a balanced diet is to plan meals in relation to the other foods for the whole day. It is always advisable to eat regular meals in smaller proportions than to eat one huge meal. Next is the important part, that is principles of meal planning. We have 10 different principles, beginning with the first one. The first principle is to meet the nutritional requirement. So a good menu is the one which will not only provide the adequate calories, fats, proteins, but also will take into account your micronutrients, that is your vitamins and minerals. These are required for essential well-being of each family member, and also it will prevent any kind of deficiency disorders later on in the lifetime. In a balanced diet, the energy distribution ratio for carbohydrates, proteins and fats should be 7:1:2. The diet should consist of the basic 5 food groups that is given by the ICMR. The second principle, meal planning should fulfill the family needs. So a family will consist of members of different age groups. So the planning should be done in such a way that all the age groups are provided with the nutrients that are required for them. For example, a growing adolescent boy, he may need foods that are high in calories in order to satisfy his appetite, whereas a young child may require soft and bland diet. Pregnant women may require more of green leafy vegetables and iron-rich foods. A heavy worker requires more calories and B vitamins than other members of the family. The meal pattern varies again with age, occupation and lifestyle of the family members. Like each person will be leading a different kind of lifestyle. Most of the family members may belong to the sedentary group, but again it varies from families. The family meal must offer children enough fat and flexibility in calorie density so that their energy needs are met. The third principle, meal planning should save time and energy. Nowadays we are exposed to working mothers, due to which more time cannot be given for food preparation, and only during weekends or Sundays more time is spent or special meals are prepared. So taking into account that, meals should be planned, or recipes or dishes should be prepared that are quick to process and ready for consumption. It should also be simple and nutritious. Labor and time saving devices can be used. We have toasters or pressure cookers that will help in the better retention of nutrients, at the same time help in providing different kinds of dishes. Using convenient food saves time and energy, but that is not recommended, as there are certain side effects when we are going for consumption of your convenience food. They won't be as nutritious as consumption of the fresh food items. Then economic consideration. Every family has a certain budget set for your food. You cannot exceed that budget. That will lead to hindrance of other requirements. So meals are planned within budget and should be put into practice. The cost of the meal can be reduced by purchasing bulk, okay, where you might get offers, or use of seasonal foods, locally available foods, growing your own food items. Then the fifth principle, meal planning should give you maximum nutrients. So loss of nutrients during processing, it can be cutting, washing or soaking. It can be minimized by taking into account the type of food you're working with. Also the cooking method. Use more of cooking methods which will help in the better retention. For example, using of pressure cooker. If you're going for stewing or simmering, the stock can be used for preparation of curries and gravies. Sprouted grams, malted cereals, fermented foods, they will enhance the nutritive value. How? By removal of the anti-nutritional factors that are present. Good quality protein should be distributed in all meals, especially if you are working with a non-veg diet. Then the use of proteins of high biological value is recommended, your poultry and eggs. Pressure cookers can be used to conserve the nutrients, as I've already told. The sixth principle, consideration for individual likes and dislikes. So every individual will have preferences in food items. Some like sweet, some like savory, spicy. So the meal planning should be done in such a way it will not only meet the RDA, but also the individual likes and dislikes. It should be taken into consideration. If a person does not like any kind of food stuff, that can be, not completely removed off chart, but presented in a different way, wherein you can mask the presence of that food group. Or choose a food group from the same food stuff wherein you can replace it. Okay. Food habits and dietary patterns should also be considered. What the child or the individual has grown up consuming, what are the preferences, in which way they like to consume a certain kind of food stuff. Religion, traditions and customs of the individual should be considered in planning menu. The next principle, the seventh principle, the planned meals should provide variety. If the food or the meals are monotonous, they cannot be consumed. For example, preparation of dosa every morning and the same one. Wherein if you introduce variety, if you go for masala dosas or different kinds of idlis, there will be a kind of variety in the diet which will increase in the appetite, or food consumption rate will be increased. Variety can be introduced not only in the dish but also in color, texture, taste, and by use of different kinds of food stuff, food ingredients, in combination of different kinds of cooking methods. As in, you can go for steaming instead of frying. Okay. Variety also helps in meeting the nutritional requirements by enhancing the appetite of an individual. The next is meals should give satiety. Now, how will the meals give you satiety? That's when you include fiber in your diet. The foods that are rich in fiber will give a feeling of fullness or bulkiness. They will also see to that limited amount of fat and calories consumption takes place, helps in weight management. People who are prone towards weight loss can go for inclusion of more and more fiber-rich foodstuffs. So meals should be planned in such a way that the interval between the meals also is considered. Next, ninth principle, availability of foods. Here, locally available food should be taken into consideration. Seasonal food should be taken into consideration. If the foods are available in the local markets, you can go for them instead of going for exported foods which are more costlier in nature. So the wide variation in dietary pattern toward the world depends largely upon the available food stuff. As in, certain kinds of foods are available to that part of the region of the country which is not available anywhere else. Such foodstuffs should be included in order to maintain that culture and tradition. The 10th and the last principle, health value of the foods should be considered. As in, if you are taking into account a kind of food you are working with, what are the nutritions that are provided by that food should be taken into consideration. Foods that give you more of phytochemicals, bioactive compounds, those are considered as nutraceuticals, wherein they give you a lot of nutrients which will help in the prevention of onset of diseases, also increase the immunity. Such food should be used more and more. There are certain points to be considered for planning a meal. For planning the menu, the RDA must be met, okay, and that is the most important one. If the RDA is not met, what will happen? It can lead to deficiency disorders again. For energy, total calories can be plus or minus 50. Then the RDA. It can be plus 50 to the RDA or minus 50 to the RDA. Energy derived from cereals should not be more than 75%. It is better to include 2 cereals in one meal, like rice and wheat, or millets and rice, a combination. Whole grain cereals, parboiled grains and malted grains give higher nutritive value. The flour should not be sieved in order to retain the bran that is present. Minimize refined cereals like maida because it will not give you any kind of nutrients. To improve the cereal and pulse protein, a ratio of cereal protein to pulse protein should be done. Why? Because there are certain amino acids that are lacking in cereals which will be present in proteins and vice versa. So a combination will ensure that all the essential amino acids are met. So it should be in the ratio 4:1. In terms of grains, it will be 8 parts of the cereals to 1 part of pulses. 2 to 3 servings of pulses should be taken every day. Germinated pulses are more nutritious because there will be destruction of anti-nutritional factors, as already said. 1 egg weighs around 40 grams. This can be served along any kind of cereal or pulse in order to improve the quality of protein. Since, as we already know, the pulse protein, they are of lower quality when we compare to proteins of animal origin. Instead of 1 serving of poultry or fish can also be introduced. Fish is a very good alternative. Along with protein, it will also give you the essential fatty acids such as your omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. A minimum quantity of 500 ml of milk per day should be given. Okay, it will help to maintain the calcium requirement. Curd is a good source of calcium, as well as it has a probiotic activity in the body. Low fat milk is preferred. Then foods rich in fiber should be included in the diet in order to consume lesser of your calories, and helps in maintaining your weight, gives bulk to your diet. Every meal should contain at least one medium-sized fruit. It is better to serve the fruit in raw form instead of going for preparation of juice using it, because the fiber content will be lost. Also, when you go for preparation of juice and preserving them, the vitamin C will be lost. Inclusion of salads or raita are not only helpful in meeting the vitamin requirements, but also they will add variety to the diet and give satiety due to the high fiber content. Green leafy vegetables can be given more than one serving. Colored vegetables and fruits are preferred because they will give you different pigments which have antioxidant effects. Next, 5 servings of colorful fruits and vegetables should be included in a day's diet to meet the antioxidant requirement. Energy derived from fats and oils should be around 15 to 20% of the total calories, and the rest 5% should come from your sugar and jaggery. It is better to use more than one type of oil, because a combination of oil will give you all the omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Choose a diet that is low in fats, especially the saturated fats, because saturated fats are responsible for your cholesterol. Fried foods cannot be included in the diet if the person is under certain kinds of fat restriction diet. Variety of food should be included in the menu, since no single food item will give you all the nutrients. Ideally, each meal should consist of all 5 food groups given by the ICMR. Salt and sugar can be used in moderation. Along with that, seasonings can be added in order to make the food more pleasing. 1/3 of the nutritional requirement, at least calories and protein, should be met by lunch and then by dinner. If possible, the meals planned should be at a time for several days. As in one sitting, you have to be able to plan a meal at least for a week. Water should be taken in adequate quantities, 1 to 2 liters. Use processed and ready-to-eat foods judiciously, as in not every day, but here and there it's fine. Processed food contain a lot of food additives which can result in health problems later on. Children and patients whose nutritional requirements are high, they cannot meet the nutritional requirement, as in the children may be predisposed to a particular case of malnutrition. It can be kwashiorkor and marasmus. Such children, use of only foods and RDA will not meet their requirements, because their requirements will be way higher than the normal RDA requirement. That's why you have to go for the introduction of supplementary foods. But introduction of supplementary food should be done under expert guidance. With this, I would like to conclude. Thank you.